Today we're gonna take a look on another aircraft on the performance side of things and test and take a look on the numbers comparing to something that it's already in the game. One aircraft that is being added very soon to the next update, the SU-34. So we're gonna compare the SU-34 to the SU-27, taking a look with War Thunder real-time information, trying to minimize variables and compare them to each other in weight, thrust to weight, and thrust to see what you can expect. We did some dogfights last week with it, and we tested that although it is a very cool aircraft and it does have an amazing performance in the dogfight, especially doing Cobras, it is an aircraft that loses a lot of energy while turning, making you have some troubles dealing with highly maneuverable aircraft for too long, or climbing or accelerating. You're gonna probably lose some performance because of the extra weight of this aircraft, and it is heavy. So let's take a look on the numbers themselves and then we can draw some conclusions. So these tests were done in the same map with the same situation, the same conditions, same game version, and also in the same situations, right? So the first test was with these aircraft empty, right? So no loadouts, so just the weight of the aircraft plus minimal fuel with no fuel consumption, so that we don't have another variable. So we tested the weight, the thrust, and the thrust to weight. I gotta say that the weight is just, measured like a weight, but the thrust and the thrust weight with that as well were basically measured in optimal conditions, okay? So the thrust is basically not done in a static environment. It is trying to get as much air as possible inside the engine, okay? So flying as low as possible, high density of air, and of course high speed. Depends on the engine. F-15 engines, for example, take up to a certain speed and then it starts to lose thrust, so they're optimized to a certain speed and acceleration. Russian engines, they're normally just as long as you're getting air, it's producing more power. So depends very much on the engine, okay? But just to know that it was on the optimal condition and the most amount of power that I could draw from these engines without breaking my wings or anything like that, okay? So let's go for the numbers. First of all, the weight. So the SU-27, in this case, empty minimal fuel, was 19,793 kilograms, which is very heavy. It's way heavier than an F-15 in these situations. But yeah, the larger the aircraft, the heavier it is, right? The enormous amount of weight that the SU-34 have is what actually drew my attention, 26,310 kilograms. So it's a very heavy aircraft, and it has around 7 tons more of weight than a normal SU-27. This is because of the radar. The radar is very heavy. This is because the extra pilot, of course, the extra avionics, the extra systems, and extra tanks as well, extra avionics, extra everything, right? The aircraft itself is not bigger, but it has a lot more heavyweight stuff inside the aircraft, okay? But you can see it's 7 tons more. It's a lot more weight, guys. On the thrust side of things, I was expecting more, I gotta say. If you take a look on the static thrust of them when it was opened, the dev server, you would see a larger gap than what I'm about to tell you guys. But anyway, in optimal conditions, the SU-27, the normal AL-31F, if I'm not mistaken it's called, produced with the 2 engines a total thrust of 310 kilonewtons, while the SU-34 with the FM version of that engine produced with both engines together 318 kilonewtons, so around 800 kilograms of force more, which is not what I was expecting. I was expecting, especially because the SU-34 is so heavy, to have a lot more power. But anyway, it is what it is, right? The thrust weight of them is very different as well, with the SU-27 having a 1.57 of a thrust weight, which isn't the greatest thing ever, but it is pretty good. It's not bad. And then the SU-34 a 1.21, which is not bad, but you gotta remember that this is empty weighted, right? So we're gonna test with the full fuel loads and air-to-air combat, and it's a lot worse, right? So the first idea that we can draw from this is that the SU-34 is 7 tons heavier and it only produces 800 kilograms of power more, meaning that has a very, very bad thrust to weight compared to the normal SU-27, which is also not one of the greatest aircraft at that, right? And then we go for the numbers when you are fully filled and with air-to-air combat missiles. This was measured in the same way, everything that I already said, right? So the weight of the SU-27 was 28,880 kilograms, and the SU-34 got an enormous 37,884 kilograms of weight. So a lot more. I gotta point to something over here. The SU-34 with max fuel does carry a little bit more fuel, so you should expect, if you use the same amount of weight in fuel, to have basically the same difference over here of 7 tons. So you would basically have around 1 or 2 tons less than the 37,000 if you take the same amount of fuel. But the thing is, this thing can carry more fuel, so I decided to just go for the max fuel just to have an idea of how much weight would that be. And it is 37,000 kilograms, which is an enormous amount of weight. It's just nuts. The power is basically the same, okay, the thrust is basically the same, but I gotta say something here. It is kind of funny because of the drag and weight and everything, especially the drag of the missiles, under the wings and stuff. I couldn't manage to get to the top speeds of these aircraft, and aka I couldn't get them to produce the same amount of power because it had so much drag that I couldn't actually put the engines on that position of so much air going in that you could actually produce the most amount of power. So they only produced 304 kilonewtons with the SU-27 and 310 kilonewtons with the SU-34, producing a thrust weight of 1.05 only for the SU-27 and 0.84 for the SU-34. So a lot worse, guys, a lot worse. And here we can draw some conclusions, as I was saying, right? You can see that the SU-27 isn't already like the greatest thing in thrust to weight and acceleration and everything climb in the game right now, but you can see that this SU-34 is even worse. So if you're gonna use as an air-to-air combat aircraft, which is where these stats matter, because air-to-ground it doesn't matter, this type of thing, air-to-air it matters, right? You have to notice that although you have an amazing radar, for example for BVR, you're not gonna be able to put the missiles as quickly as other aircraft in the right window for shooting them in the BVR situation. And in a dogfight, you have even a narrower gap of shooting the other target down compared to some of these aircraft. For example, the SU-27 maybe doesn't have the best thrust weight of the game, but it has such a good turning capability that it can get targets very easily and destroy them very quickly, right? The SU-34 will be like that. You could, in a dogfight, win and beat basically everything in a dogfight very quickly. But the thing is, if you don't do it quickly, you're gonna lose so much speed and so much energy that you're gonna end up dying for basically any type of top-tier jet. So this is going to be difficult to fly in an air battle because of that. As long as you are away from the targets or killing targets when you get into a dogfight as quickly as possible, you're gonna be fine. If you take too much time, you're dead. Okay, but even with that, I still believe that the SU-34 will be probably the best attack aircraft in the game. KH-38s, Grom 2s, I mean, the PESA radar, ability to defend itself, ability to do Cobras, it is still pretty amazing, right? So although it is very heavy and it is a bus, it has some particular features aerodynamically that makes it be very nimble. So if you use them correctly and stay fast on the way of killing other targets, you can get away with it and remain alive and get a lot of kills in the air-to-air combat. Okay, guys? But basically, this is my conclusion. It means that the SU-34 will be difficult to fly against an air target sometimes, but it's not impossible. You just have to learn how to do it. But yeah, guys, basically this is it. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think about the SU-34, and I see you guys on the next one. Click the like button, comment down below. See you guys, subscribe.